You can have $3 million, but your worst enemy gets $10 million. Would you accept it? Why? Why not? My worst enemy is probably the tiny person who follows me around the house actively destroying things, unfolding laundry, knocking over full glasses, typing randomly on my keyboard when I'm working, trying to smuggle milk and crackers onto the sofa. He's 1 1/2 and calls me mama. Edit, not that I don't love parenting him or anything, just saying that my toddler is the most destructive force in my life, even if he doesn't mean it. Honestly, I'm trying to figure out who my worst enemy would be, like, maybe an elementary school bully, and frankly, I hesitate to even use the word bully. Looking back, I think the dude was just horrifically bad at interacting with other human beings and had a weird sense of humor. And I haven't seen him for a decade, so sure, he gets 10 mil, that'd be fine with me. For sure, I'm sure most people, myself included, don't really have a worst enemy, and if you're an adult and you do, then please tell me what that looks like, because that sounds super interesting and I would love to know more. So I'll take my $3 million, and that asshole neighbor of mine who doesn't recycle, has his friends park their cars overnight in front of my place and overwaters his lawn in the summer can have his $10 million and hopefully use it to move to a bigger and better house in a different neighborhood and we both win. I share a home with my worst enemy. He's my uncle. We suspect he's an addict and he has mental problems. He's trying to get me, my mom, and his 2 other brothers and gals so he can get the piece of land to himself. We don't have money to move. He claimed my mom and I destroyed his car. He brought people over in the middle of the night when I was alone to cut our fence, and God knows what else had I not called the police. He broke his brother's nose after assaulting him when he was in his car. He is unemployed and lives off his inheritance and spends his day blasting music that's supposed to be insults to us or pretending to be on the phone screaming what he's going to do to us. He also spies on my mom and his other brother's wife. We live in a developing country, so the police is useless unless it's murder or something like that. So that's what it's like having a worst enemy as an adult. My sister-in-law and her Weasley-ass husband were a constant source of family-destroying drama during a time where my mother-in-law had a catastrophic accident that left her a quadriplegic. So while we had to figure out how to care for my wife's mother, including hiring in-home care staff, fighting long-term insurance to pay for it, figuring out all the medical things we need to check on and how to care for her, buying accessible vehicles, equipment, moving to a more accessible home, etc. We also had to deal with them trying to derail things because they wanted to control stuff, but were completely unfit to do anything. My mother-in-law chose us to be her care people, not like we wanted to, we were just the best suited for it, and they could never get over it, causing drama and attacking me, my wife and even our kids, turning the rest of the family against us to the point that my mother-in-law reduced their inheritance and gave it to us. So now my wife has no family left because the sister-in-law convinced everyone that we manipulated my mill to get money, and all the other siblings bought onto it because they lost money in the deal. I honestly wouldn't accept $3 million to give them 10. I want them to suffer in misery for the rest of their days and carry the burden of how they mistreated my mother-in-law and my family in our time of desperate need. I would honestly kill them without a second thought and sleep like a baby that night if it were legal. I don't even like thinking about them because their existence sickens me that much. So that's what having a worst enemy looks like, and it's not wholesome. We don't have contact at all, but I'd say I have a worst enemy or two. There was a guy I was friends with that tried to force himself on me, then lied about it and started rumors that I was doing meth. So him, or maybe the other one that was supposed to be my friend but joined up with the first one and the rumors, knew about everything before making that decision. I was the one who introduced them. They can both fuck off. Men in their 30s doing that shit, it's just beyond me. I am 26 and at work the entire last year a girl who is 30 has been harassing me to a crazy extent, but my workplace can hardly do things about it because it's only me and her when she says horrible things to me or threatens me, and she just says she has no idea what I'm talking about. She spreads rumors about me, tells on me to our supervisor for things that are not my fault, saying she saw me do it, and has tried getting with my ex who also works there. There's so much more, but she has hated me since the day she met me. Scary, crazy, jealous. I would not take the 3 million. I've never met someone so awful. I don't have an active worst enemy. If I hate someone so much that they're my enemy, I don't keep them in my life and remove myself from them. I don't have the energy for that kind of hate. But you don't always get to choose your enemies. Sometimes people really hurt you for no reason. My father is likely my worst enemy. The idea of him getting 10 million after everything sickens me. But I'd still take the money. 3 million is a life-changing amount, and not doing so is just shooting myself in the foot to spite him. Psychologists have shown that people always compare themselves to others, and would rather make less overall but more than their coworker, instead of making more, but less than their coworkers. This is stupid. Take the 3 mil. It makes your life way better. Who cares what some chone with 10 mil does? The world is full of rich assholes. One more won't hurt. My biggest enemy in life is probably some random bully from school that I haven't had contact with in years, and wouldn't know that they got the money. Or my mom, who passed away a few years back, which means it's possible the money would pass back to me anyway as her next of kin. So yeah, give me my 3 mil. Definitely, because I learned to forgive the people I considered enemies a long time ago. They were just kids, and kids can be real assholes for no reason. I genuinely wish them the best in life. 10 mil would be a great help to them, and 3 mil would be more than enough to set myself up. We, my old enemies and I, are all living in poverty and shit in our town, and if I could help fix that for even one of my old enemies, I'd do it in a heartbeat. None of us deserve to live how I do. This is my thinking. $3 million I can live comfortably, but not really enough for me to consider quitting my job. My worst enemy would probably live it up, thinking I'm a millionaire and by the end of the first year be broke. Buy the mansion because I've got millions and not think about repairs, upkeep and taxes. Now you could say, well, real estate is going up, won't your enemy make money off that mansion? Wouldn't that person make more than $10 million? Maybe. But there is also the real possibility that the mansion wouldn't sell, difference between value and what someone will pay for it, and it would have to be price dropped until someone bought it. So that $5 million mansion is now valued at $7 million and sold for $1.2 million because not only is no one with $7 million wanting to buy it, but the tax bill is due again. Other assets, figure in the I have $10 million celebration party when the money arrives. The I don't need to cook, I can order DoorDash every night cash, strip club make it rain money, paying off debts, expensive cars, expensive gifts to family and friends like cars and houses, vacations to Europe. Soon you realize that there aren't many assets remaining, especially if that European vacation was 6 months. High-end everything. What about that $1.2 million from the house sale? They blew through $10 million. No way they'll remain a millionaire by the end of the month. And if that is your worst enemy, and they knew you only had $3 million, they'd happily shove that wealth into your face. Here is my $5 million house. It's more money than you have, and I still have more money than you. Meaning that when they go flat broke, you get to rub that into their face. If anything, I'd be curious to find out who my objective worst enemy was. I don't hate anyone enough to actively deny them free money out of spite. The worst you get from me is that I wouldn't care. Unless you have had some sort of abusive relationship situation or a very nasty breakup, most normal people probably couldn't point to their worst enemies. Yes, because the enemy of my worst enemy is my friend. So therefore my worst enemy's enemy is actually my friend. But, because they're each other's enemy, the worst enemy of my enemy is also my friend. So my worst enemy is actually my friend. Now we both have $13 million since we're actually friends. While I am not sure who my worst enemy is, I can assume they are terrible with money and will be broke in less than 5 years. I mean, you woke up and suddenly there is $10 million without explanation. Some would assume it was a one-and-done thing, But I really hate people who are stupid. I mean monumentally stupid and think that they are brilliant. So my worst enemy will get $10 million and think there was more coming and blow it all. Plus, I would know who it was, because they'd brag about that $10 million and I would do what I could to get them to make terrible financial choices. You should totally buy that $1 million house with that elaborate in-ground swimming pool. Later. Oh no. You have to sell that house because of the taxes and the expensive upkeep that comes with an elaborate in-ground swimming pool, and you have to sell those Lambos because they are also expensive to maintain and have next to no resale value. You really should figure out what you did to make that $10 million and do it again. What about your GameStop shares? Oh, when you sold them all, you flooded the market with those shares and the price dropped, so now they all worthless. I don't know. Unlike most people here, my worst enemy might be an actual sociopathic criminal, rather than your typical asshole. As one person said, money doesn't change people, it just makes them easier to be who they really are. I feel there's a slightly moral weight here, depending on what is the worst thing they are willing to do that would not be possible without that $10 million. I get money, my mother gets more money. She tries to seem generous and gives me and siblings money, likely like only $1,000, and maybe pays for something, like a trip or driving lessons, so she can tell people that she is such a good person. Sounds good to me. She will still not be a good person and only ever talk to me if she needs something or wants to brag about something, completely ignoring anything that might be going on in my life. Example, I got engaged over 2 months ago and she talked to me about things that affected her but not ever mentioned my engagement. Got to love an arc mom. I've got no idea who my worst enemy is, so yeah, I'd like to find out. $3 million will set me and my wife up for life comfortably. Set aside $500,000 for a house, $1 million for bits and pieces, invest the rest sensibly and turn that into the $10 million. Keep $5 million for us, $2.5 million spread between family and friends who need it and the rest to charity. Sure, $3 million is enough to live comfy. Plus my greatest enemy is the cat that lives at number 17 on my street. Little fucker either swipes my legs every time I walk by or it takes a swing at my dog while standing in some weird sideways stance. Maybe if it learns I'd help it get $10 million for catnip and such, it'll be my friend. Those slaps hurt like a bitch, especially if you don't see them coming. Unlike most people here, I do have a worst enemy. Well, as I cut ties with her years ago, I would still take the money because I don't see her anymore anyway. So it probably won't affect my life that she gets $10 million and I $3 million. It would probably annoy me a little bit that she got more than 3 times what I got, considering how poorly she has treated me and how she has always been in debt, for always buying things she didn't need, and I haven't. But $3 million is $3 million. If I get to choose who I get the $3 million from, part of me wants it to come from her $10 million as she still owes me for some things she has borrowed indefinitely. Doctor, I would still take the money. Depending on the day of the week, I consider myself my own worst enemy. Other times it's my sister's boyfriend. On the latter, he's supposedly dying. The guy's a pathological liar, so who knows the truth? So, my sister and niece hopefully end up with a decent windfall. On those grounds, sure, I'd take it. I'm not sure if I'd take it. My worst enemy is my biological mother. She's extremely narcissistic, attention-seeking, overbearing, and unapologetic. I worry if she came into ownership with that amount, how would it affect those around her? It could turn out fine, but there's just such a high chance of her causing major grief, strife, and pain to others when money's no longer an issue for her. Additionally, you know those stories of those that win the lottery and end up worse off due to frivolous spending? I can easily see that happening with her. The news says my worst enemy is somewhere on the other side of the world of me, who is probably a lot angrier at people closer to where they are now. Them having $10 million will hopefully make their lives good enough that they don't care about me anymore, or that they will probably still be consumed by the demons in the local life. So yeah, give me the money. Anyone who wouldn't is an idiot. I don't know who my worst enemy would even be, but I would never forgo the chance to get that much money just to spite someone I don't like. If you hate that person so much that you couldn't bear the thought of them getting that much money, just take your $3 million and move somewhere else so you never have to see them again. My worst enemy ATM is my upstairs neighbor. She is, for a lack of better word, white trash. $10 bill would totally ruin her life. She'd squander it and people would take advantage of her since she's dumber than a box of rocks and has no friends. She is very unpleasant. No friend or boyfriend lasts more than a few months. $3 bill to me and $10 to her sounds like a win-win. Easy 13 million. Jokes aside, I am my worst enemy in some ways, but, barring that, I'd really like to see who gets the 10 million. And on top of that, 3 million would be more than enough to power what I'd currently consider my dream life for a while, with enough of a parachute to comfortably switch that up multiple times. It's a lot of fucking money. There is a science fiction short story with something like this premise, although in this case your worst enemy gets double what you wish for. It's the same to you, Doubled, by Robert Shickley. Personally, I always thought this was a no-brainer unless my worst enemy was someone who is planning to kill me if they can just scrape together a few million to get the ball rolling. If so, number. Otherwise, sure. Once upon a time there was a rich man and a poor man. The rich man lived a dream life, fancy house, nice car, beautiful wife, etc. The poor man lived under a bridge and hated the rich man for all the excesses he personified. One day, the poor man found a lamp washed up on the shore. He rubbed it and your stereotypical genie came out. "I will grant you 3 wishes," the genie said, "but whatever you ask for, I will give the rich man double." The poor man mulls it over and asks for $10 million. The genie drops a briefcase of cash at his feet, and over in his mansion the rich man suddenly has 2 briefcases with $10 million each. The formerly poor man thinks again and asks for a beautiful and trustworthy companion who is truly compatible with him to share his new wealth with. Suddenly a beautiful woman is standing next to him and they start planning on how to begin their new life. The rich man has 2 supermodels show up at his front door. Things are a bit awkward at first, what with his already existing wife. But they sit down and decide to work things out. Maybe genie magic had something to do with that, I don't know. The genie looks at the formerly poor man and says, "You have 1 wish remaining. What do you desire?" The man sits on the beach with his new soulmate and looks long and hard at the water, thinking deeply. He then tells the genie, "I wish for you to beat me half to death." I would take it. 3 mil would be great, and honestly my worst enemy is either myself or my ex. And if my ex happily got 10 mil to live on and I was responsible for that, I'd be happy for her. My lack of money while working through law school seemed to be a big issue for her. Very complicated feelings for my ex, as you can see. I know this will be buried, but I need to get this off my chest. My enemy is this 70-something old bat that has tried to get me fired twice for competition that's solely one-sided. I make bartender wage and depend on tips, and she makes full minimum wage plus tips. She thinks I make more than I do and wants my position. She can have the $10 million. She'll either blow through it or die before she can. $3 million will absolve me of my financial strife. Even after taxes. I know she'll quit. I'll keep my trap shut and keep working until I can insure my nest egg and get some health insurance, any of which will guarantee getting her out of my life. I'll also be able to get my kitties regular vet visits, so that I can be sure of their long health and extended spoiling. I couldn't save my oldest, so I want to be sure my other 2 don't have to suffer like she did. I just wanna be able to pay my rent and dote on my kitties without worrying about what rumor may be coming next that could jeopardize my livelihood. Yes, then I'd marry my enemy, kill them and steal their money. It would be the perfect. I'd have $13 million. Everyone wouldn't suspect a thing if I'd marry them, plus I've watched way too many killer things to mess up. Thought I might have to kill a few people on the way, but other than that, if I did get caught, I'd go to a different country till it dies down and come back later.